What is up, nation? Today let's talk 2021, the year of Zelda. All right, everyone. Today's an exciting day because we get to talk about the Legend of Zelda series, and that's personally my favorite gaming series of all time. Ocarina of Time is what made me a gamer back in the day on the N64 when it released in '96. So it's an exciting time for this conversation to take place. We know that Zelda is right around the corner from its 35th anniversary. It's going to be the year 2021. February, to be exact, will be the month where it hits its 35th anniversary. And we actually have some information that recently came out that shows that Nintendo's most likely planning to give Zelda the same kind of treatment that it's going to be, or that we're expecting to see them give Mario in its 35th anniversary celebration. So we don't know if we're seeing like multiple 3D games released in the same cartridge like they may be doing for Mario, but there has been a number of trademarks that match up what they renewed for Mario as well as what they renewed for the Legend of Zelda series that shows that they're both obviously planning for major pushes for these 35th year celebrations. It's obviously not something that, you know, we're typically used to seeing a game hitting that 35-year mark that's been around this entire time. That's a very standalone thing with very few games that have still been continued that long in history. So Nintendo's really going to want to go out of their way to make this a big deal and make all types of different promotional material related to these celebrations. So what we're going to talk about today is what we can most likely expect walking into the year of 2021 with how they're going to handle these Zelda games, because obviously we saw Link's Awakening release on the Nintendo Switch and just do absolutely great numbers. That's an original Game Boy game, and they went ahead and remade it from the ground up, and it just had an incredible sales number. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that continue maybe throughout the year 2021. A lot of fans are just speculating that maybe all we're going to see is Breath of the Wild 2, which is going to be obviously the flagship title, but I think that we're going to see more than that. I think we may see that towards the end of 2021, maybe as a holiday release, but I think throughout the year they're going to want to keep us fans thinking about The Legend of Zelda, and I think that they're going to want to really capitalize on this being the 35th anniversary. So Nintendo's not new to doing re-releases on a single disc. We did even see that on the GameCube for the Legend of Zelda collection, where they put Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and then Zelda 1 and 2 all on one disc. So I think we can absolutely see that, and then I think we could also be likely to see some Game Boy remakes, and then hopefully we even see some of the more recent titles that just need to come to the Switch, because we had games like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess that were HD that were released on the Wii U, but we never saw those come to the Switch. And obviously everybody knows the story of how the Wii U sold. The Switch is just continuing to increase in numbers and take more of the gaming audience than has ever been done before from Nintendo, and it's the first merging console of the home console and handheld in the same light. So, it's kind of a new territory that we're in here, and I think that there's a strong case to bring over those other great titles that have already been HD remastered to the Switch. So maybe we see those, and then maybe we see some games that we really haven't seen upgraded HD that the fans have been wanting, like Skyward Sword is a perfect example. So we're going to dive into all those details today and talk through what we think is most likely to come in the year 2021 for The Legend of Zelda. A super obvious one on the list that I think we can almost put down in the for sure bracket of seeing in 2021 is Breath of the Wild 2, or the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Obviously, Nintendo has huge plans for this game. This is going to be their new flagship title that goes to follow up the best-selling Zelda game that they've ever done on the Switch, which is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So I think this game has huge expectations. It brought in a ton of new fans with the format and the style that they brought in on the original Breath of the Wild. So I think Nintendo just puts all the focus on making this the best possible sequel to that title, and then hopefully gives us a really good story in the interim as well as we go through that world. So I'm really excited to see this game. I think we can for sure put it down as a 2021 title. The only thing that is left up for speculation is, do we see this in the beginning of the year, more towards in the March time frame in a spring game, or are we going to see it as the holiday 2021? I personally believe the most likely path is going to be holiday 2021, and then we see all of these other remakes kind of released incrementally throughout the 2021 year to celebrate Zelda 35th anniversary. So that's my personal takeaway on this, but I'm super excited to get Breath of the Wild on the map done with, and then just say, I'm ready to get a release date so I can put it on my calendar so I know when to go pre-order the game and play through it. I can't wait. So I think we're for sure seeing Breath of the Wild 2 in 2021. I think the next most likely titles we could see from Zelda coming to the Switch would be both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Both of these did get a remake for the 3DS a few years back, and they sold incredibly well. I think that the remakes and even the character models and the textures on those games looked great. It's just that obviously on the 3DS you're limited to playing on a small screen. So I think if Nintendo's smart, they put both of those games maybe together in one collection and sell it on the Switch, and then we have that ability to play it on a full-scale TV set like I know a lot of fans are really wanting. I do personally think that they did a great job already on the graphics and textures on those games. In fact, if you play it on an emulator and upscale the resolution, you can play it on a full TV experience, and really it looks like a high quality HD game. So I can't see why Nintendo wouldn't take advantage of this opportunity to put two of the most iconic Legend of Zelda titles on the Switch when the Switch is doing as good as it is right now. There's a ton of fans that are probably introduced to the Switch as their first or second Nintendo console and maybe have never, been able to go back and play those games. Now, we did already see a rumor of Ocarina of Time being ported to the Switch, but I think the general consensus with that is that they were expecting it to be more of like a Nintendo online service game, so one of those free games that you get for being a Nintendo online service subscriber. So it could be that, but I certainly hope that instead of them just releasing the N64 port, that we actually see both Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time ported to the Switch, but get that new updated textures and new character models, because even if they keep them the same as what they gave them for the 3DS titles but upscale the resolution, I think we're going to be set. The next title we're going to talk about is one that I think we not just want to see re-released and remade, we need to see this one re-released and remade. Hopefully it's in 2021. If not, it needs to be done at some point. That's The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. That's a title that is actually the origin story of the Legend of Zelda series. It's the one where you uncover the details of why, the curse continues to pass through multiple generations and why there's different Links and different Zeldas and different Ganons. It is literally the origin of how all of that happened. And so, to have such an important game come out towards the end of the Wii's life cycle, when Nintendo is very much trying to push the Wii Motion Plus gimmick, that they even sold the game with a Wii Motion Plus adapter in case if you didn't have one. It was a cool idea at the time, but I think they picked the wrong game to test out a new gameplay mechanic with whenever they decided to do an origin story for their most iconic series ever, So in my opinion, I would love to have the option to play it like that if we want to. So maybe they do a port to the Switch and then they give us the option to play with the Joy-Con. And I know there would have to be a lot that's reworked. They obviously designed all the enemies around Link being able to slash in a certain direction or not. But I do think that if they took the time to give us the option to play that game with a controller in HD, I think it would be a huge benefit to so many of the fans. And I think we could relive one of the best stories in the Zelda series. So let's hope we see that. I think it makes a ton of sense for Nintendo to slow down and put more development time into this one if they could pull it off and release it. We did see it talked about in an interview briefly. It wasn't really a confirmation. It was a couple years back, so there's a possibility that they've been working on this in the background. But this is a title that I really hope we do see ported to the Switch, because I think it's such an important story and it has great gameplay opportunity if you put it on the right console. The other issue on it being released on the Wii is the graphics look great, but the resolution just doesn't scale. So, if you try to go back and play that on an HD TV now, it's really not going to look too great at all. So there's not a great way to play this one, and it's such an important story in the series. I think we have to see Nintendo slow down and release this one on the Switch. So let's hope that we do see this one released in 2021. It's definitely at the top of my list because it's one game that I've wanted to go dive back into, but really haven't had the means or really the willpower to go hook up the Wii and try to upscale the resolution through like an HDMI adapter and all that. It's just silly. We shouldn't have to do that, and we should have the option to play this game with a traditional controller and not just the Wii Motion Plus add-on that they did for the Wii in the first time around. So fingers crossed, let's see this one in 2021. Nintendo, this one's on the top of my list. Now, the last few games I think we could see from the Zelda 35th anniversary, year is going to be some handheld titles. I think that there's a chance that we, maybe see some more Game Boy games remade. The ones we haven't seen yet has been like the Oracle of Ages and Seasons games, and then we also have the Minish Cap that was released on the Game Boy Advance. That those games are so far back now that it would be great to see them kind of get the same treatment that Link's Awakening did. I think the Oracle games for me were two of the best. You're playing in two, essentially it's the same game taking place at the same time in two different worlds, so it's a really unique experience, and I think they could package that into one cartridge now and have the seasons and maybe ages, maybe you play through them in the same story, maybe they make some tweaks, or they keep them the same as how they did back on the Game Boy, but you're getting really two stories instead of one, and one's more focused on combat, one's more focused on puzzles. So the way that they did it was really creative, and I think if that got the Link's Awakening treatment where they just do it from the ground up with new graphics, I think we could really see a home run hit for Nintendo. The other one is the Minish Cap from Game Boy Advance, so it's another really early story in the Zelda timeline, and I think it's one that is a really intriguing one, so maybe we'd see that get the same treatment. I still think that we're more likely to see maybe the Oracle games before Minish Cap, since Minish Cap's a little bit more recent. But we have no clue on what they're planning on that, or maybe we just see them include these in the Nintendo Online store. Anything is fine. I do think that if we see them slow down and do a remake, it would be great, but obviously I don't think we can expect every Zelda game, both 2D and 3D, to be released in the same year on the Switch. They're probably going to trickle these out slowly over time, so who knows if we will see these ones made. It's all speculation as of right now. There's not a lot of talk on if anything is official with another 2D Zelda remake. But again, with how well Link's Awakening did on the Switch, I wouldn't be surprised if we see them working on some kind of title like that. The last, other titles that are maybe that they could mess with would be Zelda 1 and 2, so the original game, and then the sequel to it. Now, Zelda 2 is kind of like the black sheep of the Zelda franchise. Nobody is really a fan of that one that I'm aware of. I mean, it's definitely an extremely hard game. If you go back and play it on the NES, it's ungodly difficulty. So maybe they could tweak the gameplay and redo that one. I think that one should almost be maybe set in the same world, but just put new gameplay mechanics from the ground up, and maybe you tell the same story, but you elaborate on it, because that was before Zelda really had its heyday of good storytelling and stuff like that. So it was more just about an open world adventure at that point. So maybe there's some chance we see those come to the Switch one day, but I wouldn't put this in my most likely list. I would definitely leave this as like just speculation. If they really want to go that 2D route and bringing those into the Switch, then maybe we see these games come here one day. Thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. I do appreciate you all sticking around to the end. I did want to, at this point in the video, ask you, the audience, a question. What are you guys most excited about as we walk into 2021 with the Legend of Zelda series? Are there any of the games we talked about today that you're more excited for than others, or some that you think that are realistic and other ones you don't think that we'll see on the Switch? I would love to get a back and forth dialogue started with you all. I will reply to all the comments on my videos, and then I did want to invite everybody to join Sunbro Nation today if you haven't already. I would love to have you here as part of the nation, so do so by clicking that subscribe button below, and then do please hit the like button as we try to grow this channel together if you did enjoy the content today, and then make sure you turn on the bell notification icon if you haven't already to see when the newest uploads go live. So with that, everyone, you guys have a great day. Sunbro Nation out.